What's up, everyone? It's Sam. Today, I want to go over the question that a lot of people have that I've been thinking about too, which is should I be buying stocks when the stock market's low, or should I be holding on to my cash and kind of being conservative? I'm going to go through what Dave Ramsey says. This video was produced just about a week ago, and tell you my thoughts on it and what I'm doing also. So let's get into it.
Julie is with us in New Jersey. Hi, Julie. How are you?
I'm good, Dave. How are you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
So my husband and I, we do not have any debt, thankful to you and to the Lord. And we do have about $450,000 in liquid cash. We do want to buy a home in the next 2 years or so, and we also are going to have to buy into my husband's medical practice. My question for you is, do we take advantage of the market right now with some of our liquid cash? Because we have very basic retirement, but like I said, we have about 450 grand in liquid cash, and we just want to know, should we do something with it right now?
Way to go!
So, before I go into this, you can tell that she or her husband makes good money. They have $450,000 in cash. They sound pretty young, but they're talking about buying a house in 2 years. And if they're a doctor, unless their expenses are very high, which maybe they are, but they're still able to save cash, that house thing doesn't seem like a big deal to me unless they're buying cash. But if they're putting 20% down, even if it's a $500,000 house, that's 100 grand. That's not really a big portion of what they have saved or what they make most likely either. But we'll keep watching for a second here. I just wanted to state that out, that that doesn't really seem like something that is very important in my eyes right now. But yeah.
Awesomeness. So what's it going to cost to buy into the practice, and when will you do that?
So we would buy into the practice probably in the next 6 to 9 months, and it'll be about 170 grand.
Okay, well, we don't touch that because we don't know what's going to happen in 6 months, right? So for sure,
Correct.
200 sits on the sidelines. Okay,
Right.
for that, because that medical practice is buying into that's going to yield you a lot more than any stock market return is going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a better purchase. Yeah.
Agreed.
So
And
that
then we
200. So
also
now we're dealing with
provide-
$250,000 in addition to that you've got sitting there potentially for a house, and this is in addition to your emergency fund, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then what you've got to do is you have to decide from there what you feel like with your SmartVestor Pro or whoever helps you with your mutual fund selection, what you feel like the market is going to do between now and the time you're going to need the money. Okay? You said 3 years before you use it to buy a home. Is that what you said?
Probably within the next 2 years.
Okay, 2 years. All right. What do you think the stock market's going to do, and why?
So I think that was a small plug for whatever mutual funds he gets commission on, but maybe not. I just know that he gets commission on some mutual funds that he suggests. But obviously they're trying to buy into the medical practice, which I agree with Dave Ramsey. Businesses tend to give a much better return. Of course, there's a lot more risk. You could be wiped out easier depending on what it is, because stocks don't go down to zero. They never have, at least. If you buy an index fund, the top 500 companies have never gone down to zero. So there's some stability in that. But if you invest in something else that will provide you a better return, you can get a lot more money and then invest in the stocks after that. That's kind of what I'm doing. I have a business opportunity soon that's going to cost, a good amount for me, and I'm just putting that money to the sidelines. I'm not messing with trying to invest in the stock market. In the meantime, with that money, that is earmarked for something else, so it's just sitting there in the bank account, and we'll move on from there. By the way, if you like this, please smash the like button down below, and we'll keep watching here.
Just 2 years. I don't know what it's going to do. Obviously, no one does. I am a glass half full abundance mentality person, and I have a tendency, having survived several of these crises that were supposed to bring life on the planet to an end, and none of them did, but they did bring pain, and they did bring people losing money. But then, I look up 12 years after 2008, and it's such a distant memory, and some of you never even experienced it that are young. And I look back to 911, and I look back to Y2K, and I look back to whatever crisis fill in the blank that caused the stock market to dive, and how quickly did it come back, and did it come back, and is the American economy going to end on the coronavirus? Answer, no. And so I'm not taking a dime out of the stock market today. I've got millions of dollars invested in mutual funds, and they're all sitting there riding down and riding up. So the question is it a great time to buy? Yeah, it's a great time to buy. How much?
So that's what I've been saying too since the beginning here. You never know when the market's going to come back, but unless you think the whole American and thus the world economy is going to explode, it's going to come back to what it was at before. I think that's a great time to buy. I don't think that long term everything is going to profit, let's say 30% less than it was before, every business. But that's what the stock market has declined by, give or take, depending on when you're watching this. So I don't imagine in a year from now that there will be much effect long term in the businesses that are run. So I think that the fact that you can buy it for 30% less and in a couple months or a year or two, it's going to be making the same amount of money that it did before. I think it's a great buying opportunity.
Is your stomach going to be in your throat because of this money being invested? So personally, I don't think I would tell you to put more than half of it into this, let half of it sit there. So you got 150 to put down on a house. If the stock market became worth zero, which is not going to,
right?
But you got another 100 playing.
That's what I said earlier.
Or so that you might make 30 grand on it. It might jump up 30% in that 2-year period of time, and so you might make nothing on it. You might lose $10,000, but you're probably not going to lose enough of it that it keeps you from buying a home during that 2 years.
Right.
So I would deploy some of it. And if you're, if you have 0%, you're 0% scared, you could deploy all of it. I wouldn't tell you to do that. I could do it because it wouldn't bother me,
right?
Because I'm very comfortable with all of that. But that's different than. I just don't want you laying awake at night saying, "Oh, I put that money in there, and now I'm not going to be able to buy a house." I don't want you having that conversation with yourself at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Got it.
To the extent you're going to, don't put any of it in, right?
No, yeah. My husband's probably more like you then, and willing to put more into the market. So, okay. And would you just do good, individual stocks?
No, I don't buy any individual stocks. Way too much risk.
Okay.
I always buy just good growth stock mutual funds. And in the case of something like that, I'm going to buy a conservative category like growth and income, maybe a little bit of growth. So I might put 50 in a growth and income and 50 in a growth fund, and then the rest of it park it in the money market. And then you've got the other 200 sitting there for the practice buy-in, and you're going to be just fine. So Anthony, we tell people all the time it's very, very important to get an intellectual grasp on the risk and face your own emotions.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And that's something that I'm doing, Dave. I reached out to my Smart Investor Pro last Thursday and just asked him, hey, what should I be doing during this time? Because I would like to invest a little bit as well. And I want to say this, Dave, because I can hear the young people out there thinking, oh, Dave just said I could possibly make possibly 30% go up in some money. Hey, listen, you guys, listen to what he's saying. If you have the money, she had $450,000. If you're still in debt, do not look to make an investment.
Exactly.
Do not do that.
Good.
I want to say that because I hear millennials and young people thinking, oh my goodness, I can make this money. No, take care of your debt.
Well, here's
That's
the thing. I mean, if you invest $10,000, we're talking about making $3,000.
There you go.
It's not life-changing money.
There you go, Dave.
And
Thank
so
you.
do not go borrowing money on a stupid credit card to put money in the market because the market's down.
Thank you.
That's the opposite end of, there's one end of stupid doing that. The other end of stupid is taking the money out right now.
Yes, sir.
Because you're freaking out.
Yes, sir.
And so it's not the time to be either. Steady.
Yes.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Yes.
So, well, I'll put
That's my thing. I haven't touched nothing. I've lost a lot of money, but I'm
No,
excited.
you hadn't cashed it in.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Because I
It's
haven't
on
touched
paper.
it.
Paper money.
Paper money, not reality.
There we go.
I like
love it.
Dave.
So Dave Ramsey's advice there is to earmark some of the money for the business, keep enough money for the house, and then also put the other, 50% or so into index funds or good growth mutual funds or stable growth mutual funds. That is kind of how I'm going to approach what I'm doing, I believe. And I'm still trying to decide the exact percentage, but my plan is to start saving for a house and some other stuff. And I think that everything will be about 40,000. After I hit 40,000, I'll be able to pay for almost everything that I want to, big ticket items for the next couple of years. But I want to be smart about it. So I don't have many expenses right now. So I've been thinking about how I want to save it, especially because the market's down. And what I've come to is I think I'm going to deploy a certain percentage towards index funds. I'm not looking at a long-term 2 to 5 years or more where it would be it would be a pretty much dead bang lock that I will get a return on my money. I'm looking at about a year to a year and a half. But I think that in that time, the market's down 25 to 30% now. I think it will come back. And it's always risk reward. Of course, it's not guaranteed that it will come back. But if I put a certain percentage in, I think that, there's probably about 60 to 70, maybe 80% chance that the market will go back to normal and possibly do better than it was before in the next year. I think that people were used to the market gaining 10%. So the fact that it went down and it might be down for 3 to 6 months, people are going to want to get back to the top and will be excited to invest again once everything's cleared up with everything that's going on right now. And then it'll go higher yet because people lost out on 6 months worth of returns, and some people took money out of the market. They're going to see that it's time to get back in and they're going to want to get in. So I think that it will go back past where it was before. Only time will tell. That's just kind of my thinking on it. So I think that I can take advantage right now when it's down by investing more. Now, I'm thinking I'll probably do between 20 and 30% of my savings of that $40,000 into just index funds. I think that that's probably safer for what I want it for. I'm not looking years out, so it's hard to pick individual companies that are going to do well in 6 months because you don't know what's going to happen to them in that short time span. So I probably will put about 25 to 30%, like I said, into index funds, and then the other 70 to 80% just in a savings account or something like that. But there comes the rub. If I put 25% of $40,000, let's say, so eventually it gets to 10,000. Most of the time, though, it's less than 10,000 because I'm gonna put it in there as I gain my savings there. Most of the time, let's average it out between $0 and $10,000. Most of the time, it's at $5,000. So if I get a 20% return, that's $1,000. I'm not sure that's really worth it for the risk or just the mental strain knowing that's what you're doing. So I haven't really decided. I'm someone, though, one of my faults is I have a hard time sitting on sitting on something that I think that has potential. When I see something that's out there that I think would be beneficial, I have a hard time not doing it or going after it. So if I see the market down another 5%, it's going to be hard if I have $5,000 to $10,000 just saved not to want to invest that. And that's something I'll have to cross when I get there. But of course, you always have to take new information into account. If it gets worse and the stock market goes down, that might make me more likely or less likely to want to invest, depending on what it is. But that's just kind of the world we live in. I think Dave Ramsey was pretty much right on with everything they said there. I don't think you want to be so aggressive that it can derail some of your short-term plans, but you want to look long-term and realize that the market's going to come back. I think that it's a good time to buy, just like he said. I'm not sure I believe exactly what he says with pay off your debt before investing. Part of the reason is I have a lot of student loans still. I paid off a lot, but I still have a lot. But the fact that I can write them off on my taxes, the fact that that I'm not gaining interest in some of them right now because of the federal government taking the interest off the loans. I think that since they're only below 5% each year right now, I can afford to not pay off my loans and invest instead. I think that it's always a weighing act, or it's always, there are benefits and cons to both sides, pros and cons. On one hand, yeah, it'd be nice not to have $350 coming out of my account each month. On the other hand, long-term investing is going to do better for me. So do I want to feel a little bit more secure in the short term or feel better in the long term? Also, something that I've gone back and forth with is if you pay off debt, sure, you don't have the monthly payment, so you have less expenses, which is nice. But if you invest, especially in certain accounts that you have access to your money, you can have the security of having the money around, if that makes sense. So if you pay off $30,000 worth of debt, but you lose your job and you still have more debt that is coming in and taking money out of your account, that's still stressful compared to having $30,000 invested. Of course, you don't want to touch your investments, but it's there if you need it. If you don't have a job, you have no way to get income, I'd rather have money invested than have less debt, because overall, if you have your own place or something or live in an apartment, your debt is probably a very small percentage of what you pay. I'm talking non-mortgage debt, but student loans, credit cards, or let's say student loans, are a very small percentage of what you spend. So if you could have a year's worth of expenses in some investment account that you have access to, that might be a better solution for you. Now, I said credit cards. I don't mean that you shouldn't pay off your credit cards. I am talking about debt that's between or that's below 6% or so, 5 to 6%. I wouldn't pay it off too quickly. That's just me. I'm a little bit more aggressive, so I'd rather invest. But if you like this, please let me know below. If you have any questions or want to comment anything or tell me what you're doing in this time, that'd be much appreciated. I'd love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.